What do you know about Christianity's most powerful woman? Probably very little, and most of what you know is probably wrong. Mary Magdalene, the first witness to Jesus' resurrection. But for centuries she was portrayed as a prostitute. Why? Because her real story was too dangerous. Tonight, we're telling that story. The story the church tried to hide, ban, and distort. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel because this video will expose one of history's greatest cover-ups. If you're ready, let's discover the real Mary Magdalene. For 1,400 years, the Catholic Church taught this: Mary Magdalene was a prostitute, a sinful woman. Jesus saved her, cleansed her, and forgave her. This story became so widespread that when you say Mary Magdalene, everyone thinks repentant prostitute. But there's one problem. The Bible doesn't say this nowhere. There's not a single verse saying Mary Magdalene was a prostitute. So where did this idea come from? In 591 AD, Pope Gregory I gave a sermon and he merged several different Marys. Mary Magdalene, Jesus' disciple; Mary of Bethany, Lazarus' sister; the sinful woman who washed Jesus' feet with perfume. The Pope said these were all the same person, and based on the phrase sinful woman, he declared Mary Magdalene a prostitute. Why? Because a powerful female figure needed to be diminished. She needed to be shown as weak, sinful, dependent on men. And this lie lasted 1,400 years. In 1969, the Catholic Church finally admitted, "We made a mistake. Mary Magdalene wasn't a prostitute." But her reputation had already been destroyed. So who was the real Mary Magdalene? In the four canonical Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Mary Magdalene is mentioned in a few critical places. 1. Jesus' follower, Luke 8:2-3. And also some women who had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities. Mary called Magdalene, from whom 7 demons had gone out, and Joanna, the wife of Chusa, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others who provided for them out of their means. 7 demons cast out. This isn't prostitution, it's healing. Jesus healed her too. At the foot of the cross, all Gospels tell this: when Jesus was crucified, the male disciples fled. But Mary Magdalene was there. She stayed until the end. Third, first witness, John 20:11-18 is the most critical passage. Mary Magdalene was the first to come to the tomb, the first to see the empty tomb, and the first to see the risen Jesus. Jesus tells her, "Go to my brothers and tell them." Mary received the news of the resurrection before the disciples. That's why the early church called her apostle to the apostles. But that's all in the canonical Gospels. No more details. Mary's special relationship with Jesus, her teachings, her role, all hidden. The real story is in the Gnostic texts. In 1896, German scholar Karl Reinhardt purchased an ancient manuscript in Cairo. Inside was the Gospel of Mary. This text dates from the 2nd century AD, and it shows Mary Magdalene in a completely different light. In the Gospel of Mary, after Jesus' death, the disciples are afraid they don't know what to do. Then Mary gives them courage. Levi, another disciple, says, "If the Savior made her worthy, who are you to reject her?" But Peter doesn't accept it. He's jealous, angry. Peter says, "Did he really speak privately with a woman and not openly to us? Are we to turn about and all listen to her? Did he prefer her to us?" This is a very important moment. Peter's questioning Mary's authority because she's a woman. And Mary weeps. "My brother Peter, what do you think? Do you think I made this up in my heart or that I am lying about the Savior?" Levi intervenes. "Peter, you have always been hot-tempered. Now I see you contending against the woman like the adversaries. But if the Savior made her worthy, who are you indeed to reject her?" This text shows the early church's greatest conflict: Peter's leadership or Mary's wisdom. The church chose Peter and silenced Mary. The Gospel of Philip is even more striking. A Gnostic text from the 3rd century AD, found at Nag Hammadi in 1945, and it contains these lines: "The companion of the Savior is Mary Magdalene. The Savior loved her more than all the disciples, and used to kiss her often on her mouth." The rest of the disciples were offended by it and expressed disapproval. They said to him, "Why do you love her more than all of us?" The Savior answered and said to them, "Why do I not love you like her?" Companion, Greek koinonos, can mean spouse, partner, companion. Kissed, in the original text this word is damaged, but understood from context. These statements show there was a special relationship between Jesus and Mary, romantic, spiritual, both. The church banned this text because the idea of a married Jesus was unacceptable. For modern Christians, the idea of Jesus being married is shocking. But in first-century Judaism, it would have been normal. At that time, Jewish men were expected to marry. Celibacy was seen as strange. Especially for a rabbi, marriage was almost mandatory. If Jesus wasn't married, this would have been noted in the Gospels. But nowhere does it say Jesus was celibate. Also, if there was a wedding, where? Which Gospel mentions it? Some scholars suggest the wedding at Cana might actually have been Jesus' own wedding. It's told in John 2. Jesus' mother is there. And when the wine runs out, Jesus' mother is consulted, as if Jesus were the host. Not definitive proof, but an interesting theory. In 2003, Dan Brown wrote The Da Vinci Code. It sold millions. The book's claim, Jesus and Mary were married. They had children. And this secret was protected by the Priory of Sion. Of course, this is fiction conspiracy theory. No historical evidence. But the book did something important. It got people asking questions about Mary Magdalene. The church condemned the book complete lies, they said. But at the same time, in 2016, Pope Francis elevated Mary Magdalene's feast day, making it equal to the male apostles. Why? Because they could no longer deny Mary's importance. Modern theologians see Mary Magdalene as a feminist icon. Why? Because she's the symbol of women silenced by patriarchal structure. The early church had female leaders, deacons, prophets, teachers, but in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, the church structure became male-dominated. Women were excluded from leadership, and Mary Magdalene is the symbol of this change. Jesus chose her, but Peter and his followers rejected her. In the Gospel of Mary, Peter's anger isn't just personal, it's structural. He can't accept women's authority. And unfortunately, Peter won. The church chose his path, and women were silenced. Of course, the Orthodox Church rejects these claims. Their arguments: 1. Gnostic texts are unreliable, written centuries after the canonical Gospels by heretical groups, not historical, theological. 2. If Jesus' marriage was important, it would have been mentioned, not mentioned in any of the 4 Gospels. So it didn't happen. 3. Mary was important, but not a spouse. Yes, she was the first witness, but that doesn't mean marriage. It just shows Jesus' respect for women. 4. Kissing was a spiritual symbol. Early Christians greeted each other with a holy kiss, not romantic, spiritual. These arguments are valid, but they don't fully answer the questions. So what's the truth? Was Mary Magdalene Jesus' wife? Honest answer: we don't know. There's no definitive proof. But there are things we do know. Certain. Mary Magdalene was an important follower of Jesus. She was the first witness to the resurrection. In the early church, she was known as Apostle to the Apostles. Pope Gregory wrongly, or deliberately, identified her as a prostitute. For 1,400 years, her reputation was stolen. Probable. She had a special relationship with Jesus. She received deeper teachings than other disciples. Peter and others were jealous of her. The early church deliberately suppressed her unproven, but interesting. She could have been married to Jesus. They could have had children. Gnostic texts might reflect a real tradition. Today, Mary Magdalene is being rediscovered. In 2016, Pope Francis made her feast day a feast equal to male apostles. The Catholic Church now acknowledges Mary Magdalene wasn't a prostitute. She was Jesus' faithful disciple and the first witness to the resurrection. But questions remain. Why was she silenced? Why was her reputation stolen? Why was her real story banned? Maybe the answer is simple. Powerful women have always been threatened, and Mary Magdalene was very powerful. Mary Magdalene, prostitute, apostle, or wife? Maybe none of the three. Maybe she was just a woman who believed in Jesus' teachings, who remained faithful to him until the end, and who continued spreading his message even after his death. But history's men couldn't accept her. They diminished her, slandered her, silenced her. It took 1,400 years. But finally the truth came out. Mary Magdalene wasn't a prostitute. She was Christianity's most important woman. And perhaps Jesus' closest friend wife? Maybe. Maybe not. But certainly an important, powerful woman who doesn't deserve to be forgotten. Thank you for watching this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think about Mary Magdalene? Prostitute, apostle, or something more? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In the next video, we'll reveal another forbidden truth. And remember, sometimes history's most powerful women are the women silenced by history's men.